Hello Internet, welcome to my channel. I'm Chameleon X, and if you're like me, you've spent the past few months ignoring your friends, family, social obligations, and personal hygiene to play more of Larian Studios' masterpiece RPG, Baldur's Gate 3. I've been wanting to make a video about this game for a while now, but I couldn't exactly do one of my normal conversions, how to turn D&D into Baldur's Gate 3. Just play D&D. It's basically just plain D&D. Okay, there are a handful of rules changes between the tabletop and PC games, but there have already been a bunch of other creators covering those differences, and honestly, things like using potions as bonus actions or throwing consumables are simple house rules that a lot of people have already used in their games before BG3 came out. So I thought that instead we could flip the script and then look at this from the opposite angle. What can we do to Baldur's Gate 3 to make it more like the tabletop RPG version of D&D? Well, the simplest and most straightforward answer to this question is to add content present in 5e that was not implemented in Baldur's Gate 3. That's what this video is going to be about. Using the amazing power of opening up Google and typing in Baldur's Gate Nexus, we're going to go on a trip through the wonderful world of PC modding. That's right, thanks to my brother pretty much buying me a new computer piece by piece, my rig is now powerful enough to play something more graphics intensive than Plants vs. Zombies. I have become part of the illustrious PC Master Race! Anyway, to start us off, we're going to look at perhaps one of the most popular mods for this game, the Dice Expansion Set by Korik. In all seriousness, these are some pretty nice dice, but yeah, what I was actually talking about is the 5e Spells mod by Celis. This mod adds dozens of extra spells to Baldur's Gate 3, which are available in the tabletop game, but were not implemented by Larian in Baldur's Gate 3. Spells like Shadowblade, Erupting Earth, and Synaptic Static are added back to the game from official 5e sourcebooks like Tasha's Cauldron, Xanathar's Guide, Fizban's Treasury, and Strixhaven. Many of these spells have new functionality which make them more appropriate to the game world of Baldur's Gate 3, and generally follow the same design philosophy of the spells from the full release. For this reason, the mod requires the Baldur's Gate 3 script extender, which is also going to be needed for a lot of the other mods in this video. In fact, just to get these out of the way, I'm going to put a quick rundown of the various backbone mods that are required to get the other mods in this video up and running. Thank you to all of the talented creators who designed these mods, and I'd encourage everyone interested in modding to head to their Nexus pages and give these guys some endorsements. The same, of course, goes to all the mod creators of the main subjects of this video. Also, maybe donate if you can, they do all this for free in their spare time after all. Anyway, 5e Spells also comes with a few optional companion mods that have been made by other creators, such as this one by Casual Artifice, which modifies some of the spells from Celis's mod to last until your next long rest instead of a set duration, like Larian did with many of the spells from the tabletop game. Another is Secret Scrolls by Dark Carl, which adds scrolls to the game's absurd abundance of containers. These scrolls contain the spells added by the 5e Spells mod, which otherwise you can only learn by leveling up in the appropriate class. Overall, I found all of these mods to be very well made and generally useful. The way the creator implemented a lot of these spells is somewhat different from the TTRPG version, but they do fit the mechanics and design philosophy of BG3. Note that this mod, unfortunately, doesn't include spells of 7th through 9th level, as the creator hasn't quite figured out how they want to implement those. Considering this list includes things like Simulacrum, Plane Shift, and Wish, some hesitation is understandable. That is, after all, the reason Larian decided to cap the player's level at 12 before all these world-altering magics become available to us. Speaking of which, one of the other essential mods is Unlock Level Curve by Karis, which does pretty much what you would expect. This mod not only increases the maximum level of all playable characters to 20, just like in the tabletop game, but also adds in most of the higher level class features for the classes and subclasses in the vanilla game. There is still quite a few of them missing, as obviously this is a massive project and it's probably just the one dude coding all this stuff in, but the fact that they've already got most of it up and running is impressive enough as it is. There is a list on the Nexus mod page of which classes and subclasses remain to be updated, so if you're worried your favorite might still be incomplete, you can check it out before downloading the mod. It is still a great mod to play with, as it opens up a ton of build options that otherwise wouldn't be viable, especially when you bring multiclassing into the mix. With spells and class levels out of the way, let's move on to the next aspect of character creation, our player's race. The major big ticket mod that those of you who've been around the Nexus are probably aware of is Fantastical Multiverse by Dungeons & Souls. This incredibly ambitious mod adds over 54 playable races to the game, and as many as 5 or 6 of those aren't just reskinned half-elves or orcs. I'm just kidding, of course. Just coding in the mechanics of all those races is a monumental achievement to begin with. And to be fair to Dungeons & Souls, like 90% of humanoid races in D&D are just humans or elves with different skin colors and no pupils for some reason. So it's perfectly reasonable to not spend the extra time to lovingly sculpt a Kalashtar so it looks unique from an Azamar or an Astral Elf, or an oh my god, what's wrong with her face? Oh, I always wanted to play a Goliath bar. Oh dear. The mod does suggest you use Baldur's Gate 3 mod manager, and I'm using Vortex, so this might not actually be a problem with the mod manager, but rather my setup. There are also a lot of cosmetic options that are either glitchy or just don't show up on my system. If you have this mod installed and they do work right for you, please let me know in the comments so I can apologize to Dungeons & Souls. I am very new to PC modding, as I mentioned, so I 100% assume this is something I did wrong. Anyway, moving on to other mods that add playable species to the game, we have Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, Dragonborn by 3Excalibur, which, as the name implies, adds the upgraded versions of the Dragonborn from Fizban's Treasury into the game. You now have the Gem Dragonborn subraces as an option during character creation, and each of the Dragonborn subraces gains an additional racial trait to go along with their damage resistance and breath weapon, which now has multiple charges per day. As you can no doubt guess, my version of Tav is a Dragonborn, so I would have appreciated these extra options when I first built this character. We also have 2 fan-favorite race mods, both of which were added by Fantastic Multiverse, but also come in standalone mods with a bit more of a personal touch to them. We have Azamar by Hyde and Shatterkai by Nels Rello. The Azamar mod adds a bunch of custom Halo options as well as fairy or demon wings, ironically enough, but no angel wings. The angel wings are summoned in-game by using one of a variety of different racial powers that are added to the game by the mod. It doesn't seem like the subrace of Azamar you choose has any effect on which options you get, so feel free to pick whatever cosmetic appeals to you. There's quite a few options for wing colors here, including these glowing ones or a pair of wings that inherits the colors you choose for your hair. The Shatterkai mod is pretty straightforward, granting you basically everything that the race does in the tabletop game. I didn't have a lot of time to play around with this one, but it seems to basically be everything you need to play a Shatterkai, if for whatever reason you didn't want to use the version in Fantastical Multiverse. Finally, we have a race that adds in satyrs to the game, Wine and Revelry. Interestingly, this was a race that was missed out from Dungeons & Souls' mod, and it doesn't seem like they intend to add it in future updates. So this mod by Labator is a good alternative for someone who thinks there aren't enough horny pipe-playing goat folk in the Sword Coast. The mod author has implemented satyrs into the game with the majority of their features intact. Mirthful leaps was apparently a problem, so instead this race just gets a flat bonus to jump distance, and the mod page points out that the ram attack animations are a bit wonky for now, but overall it's a great effort. Next, we move on to character classes. Perhaps the most well-known mod in this video is the Amazing Artificer mod by Kaidarian Lycon. This one is one of the mods that inspired me to make this video, as Kaidarian has managed to implement the entirety of the Artificer as well as all 4 currently published subclasses. It also apparently adds guns to the game, as well as some custom endgame gear that you can find in the lower city section of Baldur's Gate. This is a truly ambitious and well-designed mod, and a must-download for everybody who loves the Artificer class in D&D. My only real complaint is that I wish you could choose the form that your Steel Defender takes, instead of just having it be a robot. Maybe some retextured animal options, like a mechanical doggo or a steampunk displacer beast or something. Maybe that's something the mod author will add in the future, but for now you'll just have to settle for a clockwork C-3PO. Another full class that has been added to BG3 is the Mystic. Remember that, guys? The psionic class that was debuted in Unearthed Arcana underwent a handful of revisions, and then WotC just pretty much threw their hands up and chucked it all in the bin. Well, Zevo dug through that bin and reconstituted all the meaty bits that were left behind into a nice succulent pot roast of class options. I had to try this class out because the Mystic was a cool concept that I thought deserved another chance, and also because my own version of the Mystic was one of my best-selling works on the Dungeon Masters Guild, linked down below. Like the Artificer mod, Zevo's Mystic class includes every subclass for the Mystic that was included in the last UA article. He or she has also implemented all of the psionic talents and most of the psionic disciplines, as well as all subclass abilities up to level 14. Zevo notes that some features had to be tweaked to fit with the mechanics of BG3, but that's to be expected, and I doubt most people remember the Mystic well enough to spot the differences anyway. The creator plans to update the mod with bug fixes, class dialogue tags, and general polish in the future, so if you're interested, stay tuned to Zevo's Nexus page. Now, on to the rest of the classes in the game. I'm going to cover one mod for every class except the Warlock, because reasons. For the Barbarian, I downloaded the Path of the Storm Herald by Naichu. This is one of my favorite Barbarian subclasses, even though mechanically it's not all that great, but the version presented here is pretty cool anyway. Unlike the published class, you can switch your aura's element after every long rest, and the author kind of squashed the levels so you get everything by level 12. Not that necessary since we have the level cap mod, but it's there if you don't want to go beyond level 12 for whatever reason. Nitria also modified the level 6 feature since the bonuses in the tabletop version were effectively useless in the console version, and the level 14 damage isn't based on your level anymore. Overall, a pretty solid adaptation of the class, and arguably better than the one we got in 5e. For the Bard, Bonebreaker 687 brought us the College of Glamour, which adds the first 10 levels of the subclass to the Bard's options. As with many of the other mods in this video, there are some slight tweaks to account for BG3's mechanics and engine limitations. Enthralling Presence apparently grants the benefits of the disengage action for one turn instead of triggering a reaction, while Mantle of Majesty doesn't have a cap on the number of targets. However, the mod description implies the ability now only works on humanoids, so that's a fair trade-off. Sadly, this mod doesn't include the level 14 features of the 5e Glamour Bard, and the mod page doesn't mention whether or not the creator intends to add a patch for those who broke the level cap. When it comes to clerics, you pretty much can't do any better than this mod from Baltavi, which adds all of the remaining cleric subclasses from 5th edition, including the Blood Domain from Matt Mercer's Tal'Dorei campaign guide and the Moon Domain from the revised version. This mod also adds in the missing features for level 13 through 20 for all the cleric domains that are included in the game. This is a very impressive feat and a must download for fans of the cleric class. The mod page goes over the various domain features added to the game and details how they've been implemented in this mod. If you play a cleric in the game or you frequently take Shadowheart along with you, this mod will provide a massive array of new build options to mess around with. For the Druid, there are a couple of options, but I settled on the Circle of Wildfire by Havsglint. This subclass is currently the only dedicated Pact Druid, for some bizarre reason, wherein you get to summon an elemental fire spirit to fight at your side in battle. Mechanically, this is pretty much the same as the Conjure Elemental spell, only you can't use up your spell slots. The Fire Spirit also has a few unique moves that aren't shared with the standard Fire Elemental or Myrmidon in BG3. As usual, there are some slight tweaks to the way the mechanics work as a result of coding limitations, but overall, this is a fairly faithful rendition of the subclass. Though, like the Bard, this one doesn't seem to go beyond the vanilla level cap. For me, which fighter subclass to showcase was a no-brainer. Six-Fingered Mage brings us the Psy Warrior, complete with all the Jedi powers you know and love from the print version. It really baffles me how this subclass wasn't included in the base game, since Lae'zel is a prominent companion right from the start of the game, who is a fighter and part of a naturally psionic species, and part of the plot is having a psychic parasite in your head that grants you mind powers. To me, having the option of making Lae'zel or your main character a Psy Knight is just an obvious addition, which makes Six-Fingered Mage's efforts to correct this oversight very appreciated. The only issue the mod author notes is that you can only use your force powers to pull, push, or prone a target. Sliding them around is apparently not possible in the game's engine. Oh, the Monk. Larian did their best to make the Monk at least worth playing in BG3, and arguably they succeeded, if just barely. One case in which emulating the tabletop version of D&D would actually make the game worse. There are a handful of mods available that make the Monk more powerful and less underwhelming as a class, but one that sticks out is the alternative Monk mod by LOZ. It adapts a homebrew version of the monk developed by Laser Llama to Baldur's Gate 3, completely overhauling the base class and each of its subclasses. While such massive changes to the vanilla monk are kind of counter to the aim of this video, I'm mentioning it here because this mod also adds all of the published subclasses of monk to the game, albeit based around this homebrew monk chassis. But more to the point of this video, Laws also released a standalone monk subclass where he converted the Way of the Ascendant Dragon from the aforementioned mod to the vanilla BG3 monk, for those who don't want to download his alternate monk mod. If you're a fan of the 5e monk and want to add a bit more dragon to your dungeons, then this mod is definitely worth checking out. Moving on to the Paladin, we have Oath of Conquest, also by Havsglimt. Unlike the Druid mod, this one goes all the way to level 20 and pretty much perfectly emulates the way the class works at the table. Fear is a very powerful effect in BG3, and having a subclass that is designed to capitalize on that even further is a great addition and a powerful build option for those of you looking to try out a Pally, which seems to be a lot of you, if Larian's character creation polls are to be believed. Brought to you by the same creator who made the Artificer mod, the Drake Warden Ranger mod adds the eponymous conclave from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons into Baldur's Gate 3. This mod provides you with a Drake pet that can be summoned to fight at your side. Like the published version, you can select from a number of different colors for your Drake, which affects the breath weapon and damage resistances your pet gains. At higher levels, the Drake gains the ability to fly and grows to huge size. Unfortunately, as mounts don't seem to be a thing in this game, you are unable to actually ride your dragon into battle. Still a very nice addition to the game by Kadarian Lycon, and well worth a download. When it comes to rogue mods, we turn to this little gem by Lost Souls Man. It not only updates all of the subclasses from the vanilla game, adding in the missing features from levels 13 to 20 for those of you who broke the level cap, but it also adds in the Scout, Soul Knife, Mastermind, Inquisitive, Phantom, and Swashbuckler subclasses to the game. So, you know, all of them. If you're playing through the game as a rogue, or you're a big fan of Astarion, then you really can't do any better than this mod. For the Sorcerer, perhaps one of the most popular options is the Divine Soul, brought to you by the Black Butterfly. This mod simply does what it says and adds the Divine Soul Sorcerer to the game, with its defining feature being the ability to choose from both Sorcerer spells and Cleric spells each time you gain a level. The mod author also offers a patch for those who have the 5e Spells mod, which provides you with even more spells to choose from. A simple mod, but one that offers a wealth of new options to craft your perfect build. Now we come to the Warlock. As I said, I'm not going to cover one mod for this class. Instead, I'm going to mention 3. The Genie and the Fathomless Patron are both offered by the mod author VNAB. Both of these mods only go up to level 10 and contain some significant changes from the tabletop version, particularly with the Genie Patron. Probably would have been cool if your Genie vessel was actually a unique map that you could teleport to and short rest inside, but I don't know if that's feasible given the tools modders have to work with at this time. In any case, the third mod is the Hexblade by Fariat 111 and Araquois. This provides all of the features of the published Hexblade subclass with only a minor tweak to the Accursed Spectre feature as a result of coding limitations, and the level 14 feature is bumped down to level 12 to accommodate the vanilla level cap. Overall, these mods are all worth a look if you're a fan of the Warlock class. Finally, we have the Wizard. There are a few options available for Wizard subclass mods, including a few homebrew options. 2 of the official arcane traditions, Graviturgy and Chronergy, are both brought to us by Havsglimt, who adapts both of the Dunamancy wizards from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. The mods also include the unique Dunamancy spells that were added in that book, and which can only be accessed by wizards from one of these 2 schools. For some reason, the Graviturgy wizard goes all the way to level 14, while the mod page for the Chronergy wizard seems to imply it caps out at 10. I haven't actually tested this mod extensively, so I'm not sure if this is an oversight or not. Well, that's it for this one. Trust me when I say I'm only scratching the surface of mods for Baldur's Gate 3. Rumor has it that official modding tools similar to the Bethesda's Creation Kit are being developed for Larian, so it's likely that the modding scene for this game is just going to explode over the next few months and years. Baldur's Gate 3 has truly set a new standard for RPGs, and I can see people coming back to it over and over. Hell, with the way Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast is steering the franchise as of late, Baldur's Gate 3 might even outlast the IP that inspired it. Who knows? Anyway, if you'd like to see me cover more mods for this game, or make more modding videos in general, let me know with a like, subscribe, and or comment. I'm always looking for new ideas for content that can grow the channel, so don't hesitate to make suggestions. Pippa Griff the Great reminded me in a comment that I had promised to do a video about the equipment of Fallout, so I'm probably going to work on that next. If anyone else remembers something like that I said I would do but haven't yet, let me know. With the time between videos and general procrastination, it's easy for things to slip through. In the meantime, I've been Chameleon X, and I've had a lot on my mind. Oh, well, in it.